Hello, Morgan here. In today's video, I'll be sharing my Frenzy Barbarian throwing build in Baldur's Gate 3 that utilizes the Neuronal Trident and Heaven Brawler to create possibly the best throwing build out there. It's incredibly strong, mobile and really tanky, providing you with an exceptional experience, especially on our favorite companion, Karlach. Each throw deals 50 damage plus, with 2 attacks available to us. However, with the Thief and the Frenzied Rage, we gain access to 2 bonus actions we can use to perform throwing attacks, resulting in 4. This means with Haste we gain access to 6 attacks, without any exploits or the fighter level 11. But you can also use those bonus actions to dash, jump, hide or disengage, giving us insane mobility. But how do we deal this damage? Throwing attacks split the damage of Heaven Brawler in 2, providing us with 2 separate rolls. Lightning charges we generate also feature this effect. And the Trident also creates an explosion, counting as another instance of damage. Given all of those instances, we are dipping multiple times into the damage modifiers we are stacking, resulting in some insane damage, like for example Rage. Now with the introduction of the build out of the way, let's have a look at the starting ability score as well as the level progression. At the end I will talk about my findings regarding the scaling of this build. As for the ability score, we are going with a 17, 14, 16, 8, 10 and 8 lineup. So for Karlach specifically, I would advise you to just use the strength potion you will find in Act 2 at the vendor. You need to do a quest with Astarion for this one, so your strength modifier should be at 22 at this point. Our dexterity is at 14, providing us with armor class and initiative rolls. Constitution is just for the health. We are using medium armor because we cannot get our dexterity to 20 to provide us with the really nice benefit of having an armor that doesn't cap the dexterity. Most armor in the game you will find that doesn't have that uncapped dexterity increase will cap at 2. This means 14 dexterity giving us plus 2 is the cap for example the armor we are currently using. For the proficiencies, Karlach will probably never talk to a person, despite it being very funny. So for now I'm boosting Perception and Intimidation. So we are not going to delay our extra attack at all. So we are going straight to level 5 with the Barbarian. Reckless attack can be used in melee range, not with throwing attacks, but afterwards it does count on our throwing attacks. So if you are using your melee attack first and then your throwing action afterwards, reckless attacks procs. You cannot reaction proc this one on throwing attacks. Now for the subclass we are going with Frenzy. Frenzy is a type of rage that provides us with 2 actions. Enraged Throw and Frenzied Strike. Now Rage gives us plus 2 to our damage, and the plus 2 to the damage will proc on each instance of our throw. And additionally, Enraged Throw does not create an additional strength modifier bucket like Heaven Brawler for throwing attacks, so this one is just added on top of our first instance of damage, meaning at 20 strength that's 5 additional damage. At level 4 we pick our feat, which is down here, Heaven Brawler plus 1 to strength. Heaven Brawler doubles our attack modifier and doubles our damage modifier for throwing attacks and unarmed attacks and improvised weapons for the strength modifier. This means at this point we do not get plus 4 but plus 8 to our attack, and at level 5 we get our extra attack. We are still Barbarian level 5. The extra attack works on throwing attacks. And we get fast movement, which does work on medium armor, so we have basically 3 meters more movement. At this point there is a choice to be made. You can either delay your Thief by 1 level, because we get a rage charge additionally here, and mindless rage, which makes us immune to charmed, frightened or calm emotions during our frenzy. So that's very beneficial. So you could go with that. However, I personally do not like that, and I would highly advise you to go with Rogue at this point. Now the first level will give you 2 skill proficiencies. I like to go with Sleight of Hand here to have someone to lockpick locks, but it's not that necessary. But you're going to need a throwing weapon that's going to come back to you. In the Goblin camp in Act 1, there is a Goblin vendor. This vendor sells you the Homing Pike. This one is one of the only weapons in the game that has the property to return to your hand after throwing it. It's going to be the best throwing weapon for this class specifically, not the Eldritch Knight, because the Eldritch Knight can do this with any weapon. You can bind the weapon and then throw it and it comes back, but the Barbarian does not have this ability, so you need a weapon with the property of homing. So, Homing Pike, Act 1 at the Goblin Camp. Get this one and use it. At level 7 or level 2 in Rogue, we get the bonus action, Cunning Action Hide, Dash or Disengage. Dash is really good, because we are currently using the Speedy Sparks, which provide us on a dash with Lightning Charges. Lightning Charges provide us with another instance that's scaling our damage. This means we can dash and then throw with our attacks without needing to use our action to dash. This one is a really good combo. At level 3, we go with Thief. Thieves get a second bonus action right here. So we can Rage, then Dash to provide us with the Speedy Sparks, the Lightning Charges, and then we can start throwing. So we are up to speed a lot faster. This happens at level 8, so that's the core base of this class. A level 4 Rogue will give us another ability score improvement, which goes into Strength. The next level is going to be again a Barbarian to give us access to Mindless Rage, which makes us immune to Charmed, Frightened or Calm Emotion during Frenzied. And we get another Rage Charge. The last 2 levels go into Fighter. For the fighting style we choose Defense, giving us a +1 to armor class while wearing armor. Since we do wear medium armor, we are benefiting from this. And the last level will go again in the Fighter, giving us access to Action Surge, which you can use to gain an extra action, which is 2 additional attacks with our throwing weapon. So with Haste we now have access to 8 attacks, meaning at the low end between 400 to up to 500 damage in one turn. So we are now positioned in a fight. We can hit an enemy like so, right around here. So that's around 40 damage we dealt right here, without any of our boosts. So we are now on Kala. Kala can now Frenzy Rage, dash afterwards, like so, and we now have access to Rage and Lightning Charges. When we throw a weapon, we can toggle throwing weapons here to prevent lags, and attack that target. We're going to see a ton of damage numbers. So I will go from top to bottom. So we have our first attack that hit. That's plus 1d6 piercing damage from our weapon, plus 3 because we're using the modifier, so that's enchanted. Then 5 from our strength modifier, then 1d4 piercing damage and another 1d4 piercing damage. This is to do because we're using Gloves Uninhibited Kushigo and the Ring of Flinging, both of which give us a 1d4 throw damage. We are then adding Radiant Damage to around here. This has to do with the Callous Ring. The wearer deals 2 additional points of damage against creatures that are illuminated. It doesn't specify what type of damage, but it's radiant damage. This signifies each instance of damage that we are dealing with this spear, because the spear is illuminated, Nirulna's glow, object shines with a glowing light in a radius of 6 meters, is going to be affected by that ring. So our first hit is dealing 18 plus 2 damage. Then we have our lightning charges, which are then 1 plus 1d4 and another 1d4. The throwing damage from the gloves and the ring are added to the lightning damage. And the lightning damage also procs the ring, so that's 11 damage. Then we are proccing our Heaven Brawler 5 damage from our strength, which then procs the 1d4 2 times. So the gloves and the ring are procced again, which in turn procs the radiant damage of the ring. And lastly, the AoE is only applying the radiant damage 1 time to the primary target. All other targets are not affected. And the thunder damage is not, and I repeat, is not modified any further. And we are also adding +2 rage to this damage type, +2 rage to this damage type, +2 rage to this damage type, but not +2 damage to this damage type. So we're adding +6 from our rage to one attack. Now I need to talk about the specifics. First, how do you obtain the spear? You can find the detailed guide down below. It's around 2 minutes and shows you how to obtain the spear. If you do not have the spear, go for the homing pike you can acquire in the goblin camp from the goblin vendor, which will be your go-to weapon up until this point. Ring of Flinging, in the Druid Grove, the first vendor sells this ring. It's the best ring in the entire game for throwing builds, so pick this one up. The Callous Glow Ring can be acquired in the Gauntlet of Shar in the treasure room near Balthazar's office. So there's a big locked door. You need to open the door to acquire this ring. And the gloves are a reward for finding that one dwarf that's hidden between all those explosive mushrooms down in the Underdark. You need to report back in the colony of the mushrooms to one of the vendors. There is an alchemy vendor there, and you will get those gloves as a reward. Now, why are we using those gloves and not something else, like for example the Helda's gloves? Weapon attacks deal an additional 1d4 damage. This one has the simple reason that when we are using those gloves, we are not double proccing or triple proccing the 1d4 throwing attacks. The 1d4 fire damage is just added on top of the first layer of damage. So this one is basically a 3d4 additional damage, while those are only a 1d4. Same is true for the Callous Glow Ring. This one gives us 8 damage. Using the Caustic Ring will only add 1 instance of acid damage, so don't use the Caustic Ring. For the helmet there are multiple options. There is something I need to tell you. The Diadem of Arcane Synergy does not work on throwing attacks for some odd reason, so I tried this one with a Warlock, so you can put hacks on an enemy and then proc hacks 3 times, because one throw is 3 different separate rolls, so averaging a little bit less damage than the build I'm currently using. And the arcane synergy diadem does not work on those throwing attacks, so that's a massive drawback. So this build is just better. You get more benefits in the martial art department and don't need to cast anything and sustain the concentration. Remember, rage breaks your concentration. It's stated right here, you cannot cast or concentrate on spells while raging. So if you have no one that's going to buff you with haste, you can use the speed potion, which is really common. Gives you haste for, I think, 3 rounds. So for the rest of the gear, look for something that's only having an AC bonus to dexterity +2. So this, for example, is perfect. You cannot be crit. All incoming damage is reduced. The enemies get reeling when they attack you. So this chest armor is nearly perfect. We also want to use a shield. Like, for example, this shield, the Sentinel shield, will give us a +3 to initiative rolls and advantage on ability checks. Since we do not have 20 dexterity, this one translates to about 20 dexterity, because dexterity increases our initiative roll. And for the helmet, there are multiple options. There is a marksmanship head that I have sadly not acquired before leaving Act 2, but it gives you a +1 to throwing attacks. So down below you'll find a link with 25+ items that are easy to miss, so that marksmanship head is going to be showcased in this video. You can find it there. Anyway, this sums up the build. If you like this video, please leave a like. Make sure to comment if you have any questions or remarks. Subscribe if you haven't already. You can also join the channel membership or leave a donation if you have the spare coin. So see you next time and bye.